wonderful academic. I'm going to pass it now to our wonderful academic director, Michael Lepik. Mike is a CL Pett class of 1906, professor of engineering, School of Engineering, and Dorr School of Sustainability. He's also faculty director of the Stanford Technology Ventures program. And with that, I will pass it to you, Mike.
Thanks, Hannah. Wonderful to have everybody on the webinar today. And I want to sort of reiterate what Hannah had said about asking questions. I can guarantee you that I don't have enough content to fill a 1 hour webinar so explaining the program. And so I am really interested in what questions folks have about the overall program. If there are things you like, if there are things you want to know more about, please raise your hand. I want this to be as interactive as possible. I'm looking at the chat the entire time as well, so don't be afraid to put questions in the chat, and we'll be sure that we get all your questions answered. This is truly one of our favorite programs of the year. And I'm so glad all of you are interested in learning more about it. So, I think probably one of the most important things to go through is the value proposition. And why do you choose to come to VC Unlocked Silicon Valley? So now we are in, amazingly, our 11th year. And this program really does provide, I believe, a unique experience for those working in venture capital. If you see yourself as a venture capitalist, you'll I think learn some interesting things, but also those who want to supercharge their entry into venture capital as a profession. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And also folks that want to learn more generally about this exciting industry and this very unique asset class. The main topics that we really kind of structure the program around are: one, deals and execution. And that's pretty standard stuff with most programs that are going to go through a venture capital training. Because yes, of course, deals and execution is part of what you need to know how to do. But more than that, we're going to be going deep into VC firm management, using, of course, artificial intelligence. You come to Silicon Valley because this is where artificial intelligence happens. And also about the structure of the industry. When it comes to VC firm management using AI, what roles does AI now do at successful funds? How, as an angel investor, do you think about using AI as part of your as part of your sort of resource base? One of the speakers that we end up getting each year, a good friend of mine, Ashmeet Sadana, has for a long time been a solo GP and has automated everything that his management company does. You would think when you interact with him that he has a staff that does follow-up emails and all kinds of really wonderful programming and events and things like this, and he does not. It is him, and he has automated everything. And he's been doing that for 20 years. What AI brings to every one of you is the ability to do that. We can talk about the AI empowered solo unicorn founder. We can also talk about the AI empowered, $10 billion fund manager who's doing it alone because they have that kind of support around them. We'll talk about industry structure and why it's structured in the way that it is, and what some of the new models are around AI investing and how we're restructuring the model a bit. We're going to talk deeply about career progression and skill building and advancement, right? And that's far more than deals and execution, right? How do you think about venture capital and investing in this asset class as a career? And what does that career progression look like? How do you get in, if that's what you're trying to do? But how do you advance through it? What types of skills are important in separating yourself as a top quartile or top decile fund manager? And how do you think about advancement from a personal standpoint? And also an in-depth capstone and culmination experience that, as we'll talk more about it, is tailored to you as an individual and where you want to go. To create this program, we believe in a few different, a few core things. And if these align with where you are and what you're thinking about, I want to hear from you and I want to talk more about it. It's not enough to listen to success stories from high-profile investors. You have to roll up your sleeves and do some hard work. And we think that's important in this program. Yeah, we're going to have some folks come in and talk about their successes. But in many regards, doing your own work is the only way you're going to emulate that. More than deals, we're going to go deep on firm management, personal career development, and providing that tailored capstone experience because we think that is a unique differentiator. And that differentiator is possible because this is a longer than most program. This is 2 weeks, and it provides us the time and the space to create a personal and professionally transformational environment, right? Where you will see your career differently and yes, I dare to say you will see yourself differently after coming out of this program. Like I said, it's focused on more than stories and deal execution in early stage tech investing. Yes, of course, we're going to cover those things because that is important and central to what we do. But it provides participants with a comprehensive set of skills for a successful career in this asset class. And we really realize that incorporates your personal development and also knowing how to run a management company, because that's where your career will go. The 2-week program includes expertise from 500 Global, our great partners, and includes experiences from multiple successful international funds. And then at Stanford, we bring decades of experience in teaching highly successful tech venture programs, financial programs for fund managers. And so we'll talk about how to think about managing that portfolio. And also professional development for learners of all experiences to elevate your leadership and your professional practice. And we bring the teaching frameworks on investment theses, if that's where you are, and other capstone projects that are coordinated with Sand Hill Road on the venture side and other industry experts for those of you who are coming from different backgrounds. I can say that throughout the arc of this program, I have had the opportunity and the pleasure of meeting some amazing individuals and to hear some highlights of their experiences. The program's emphasis on theory and practical advice, gender diversity, and community building resonated with me. And that's something I think that brings a lot of value to the program. So what does it look like? Well, in week 1, we're talking about deals and funds for the most part. And so we're going to set the framework for early stage investing. So we kick off with an icebreaker, introductions, so that faculty and all the participants can kind of sync up. And then we shift into creating and tuning your capstone experience that will fit with sort of where you are. And I'll talk more about that. And we'll follow that with some observations on how you might advance your career following VC Unlocked Silicon Valley. And then we'll wrap up with dinner in Palo Alto. We'll find a good spot to go to. Our regular spot closed, and so now we have to find a new spot. On day 2, we're going to get into venture fund creation and portfolio construction. And this is where we're going to start to go deep on the details. And we're going to start with the basic VC structure and what returns like, and sort of a high-level view of putting a fund together. And how do you construct this? And this is where we go way beyond deals and into the management of a fund using AI to augment your capabilities as a fund manager. And we'll explain how to build venture portfolios that get the returns that you are seeking, either personally or for your LPs and other investors. Because the construction of a portfolio with the right kind of investments is really the secret sauce of any successful investor in this asset class. And so we'll go deep on how you do that, both from the number side. Yeah, we've got some great Excel spreadsheets that can help you understand what to include and to think about what your returns might look like to share with your LPs as you're pitching a fund, or to model out what you think a fund could be capable of doing if you're an LP. But then, like what are the risks? What are the uncertainties? How does that fit with today's market. And then we'll wrap with a view of building your venture ecosystem. And so if many of our participants are not coming from Silicon Valley, how do you think about building that venture ecosystem around you? And what are the most important things that you can do to elevate your brand, to professionalize your ecosystem, and to really prepare your founders for the success that you want them to have? On day 3, we get into fund operations, cap tables, convertible notes. We're going to dig deeper into some of the operational details of running your fund, including the use of AI across fund functions. The basics of managing cap tables in your portfolios. Yes, as the investor, you have to be responsible for helping to manage those cap tables because that's ultimately where your liquidity event is going to be derived from. We'll talk a lot about some of the jargon like convertible notes and other types of instruments that allow for the reduction of risk at very early stage, yet preserve the opportunity to invest and get good returns. And we'll wrap with some case studies around actual venture journeys. As I mentioned, we'll be bringing in some really successful investors to talk about their journeys, to give you an idea of what it's like to build a career and a life in VC investing and this asset class. Because you're not coming to VC Unlocked just for a short experience. You're coming, I hope, to set a new trajectory for where you want to go. And in order to do that, you need to know how that's going to support a life and a career that will both excite you and you're going to be proud of. On day 4, we're going to move into some basics of execution. And as I promised, we're going to talk about deals. We're going to talk about how to select investments, structure term sheets, and actually execute on those investments. And that is a core part of the day-to-day job, of course, of an investor. And yes, some of it's mechanical, and we'll make sure that you know all those basics. I mean, that's the baseline of what you need to know to be successful. But some of it's art. And that's what really separates the best VCs and investors that understand the non-mechanical pieces. And that mix is really important. And that's where so much of the mentorship in this program really comes out. Towards the end of week 1, we're going to debrief those investment decisions. It's not just enough to listen to some investments. You have to meet with an investment committee. And you're going to have to learn tools on how to persuade and convince your partners that your deal is the right deal to do. And so in our investment committee simulation, we try to help you better understand why decisions get made the way they do and why investments happen, or sometimes not. We'll also discuss how to manage that investment committee dynamics, how to think about AI-supported decision-making in an investment committee, and how to mitigate challenging partnership dynamics. Because yes, of course, those happen within a management company. And of course, the management company, for those that aren't familiar with it, is not the fund, but rather the vehicle that operates the funds. And so some of those things, especially on how we think about partnership dynamics and managing investment committee dynamics, it's very much both a how to run a VC firm, but also how to think about your career advancement. Because the individuals that know how to manage those committee dynamics and those partnership dynamics are the ones that become those senior partners, the ones with the name on the door, so to speak. In week 2, we'll continue to work on some of those things, but week 2 is also going to go much deeper into the capstone experience. Right? So on the first day of week 2, we're going to go into simulating that meeting follow-up, and we'll talk more about valuations and how the information from that investment committee meeting informs valuations over time. We'll bring in some Silicon Valley lawyers to talk about the right ways to set some things up and some wrong ways to set things up. And also important things on how to match your fund's objectives to what LPs are going to want to see. And that very much goes into your career advancement because you will have to talk to LPs. Many of you are going to have to raise money. if you're doing a fund, or if you're an LP, how do you talk to a VC about what their vision is and whether or not you're the right LP for capital to allocate. On day 8, we'll talk about managing LPs from the fund manager side. We'll talk about M&As and exits where money actually gets made. And then we'll start to move into capstone presentations. Like I said, I'll talk more about the capstone shortly. Day 9, we'll talk about follow-on investments and support and how you as an investor are not just there for the deal, but what do you do for the many years following the deal, which really separates you as a top-tier investor. And then on day 10, we'll talk about ethics. We'll talk about deep tech and AI investing, which is different than how AI gets used to manage the firm. And then some more capstone presentations. So I've talked a bit about those capstone presentations and the capstone experience. And the capstone experience is really about making this program about you. Yes, we're all in a classroom together, but we want to have very, very tangible ways to make this program customizable to what you need and where you are. We are going to have, and we have had, participants from a variety of backgrounds come to VC Unlocked Silicon Valley. And they have found it to be the best for them. But they have come from backgrounds on angel investing, institutional investing, family offices, corporate venture capital, LPs, former founders, other high net worth individuals. We've had all these folks come in. And of course, a lot of the basics around this are all very similar, right? You need to know how to do deals. You need to know how to manage a firm and think about portfolios. But of course, coming at it from these different angles means that you want to come with a different work product out at the end and a different experience during the program. And I'm very sensitive to that. And the capstone experience, which is enabled by the length of the program, is truly unique in that it's an opportunity because you will meet numerous times with a capstone group that comes from peers in these same background areas, is an opportunity to interact with a peer group of similar participants and talk about the development of your investment thesis, if that's what you're working on, or if it's an allocation plan and a return model, or if it's something else. But you'll get a chance to talk with people like you, and develop a curated capstone topic and project that relate to your goals and needs. And like I said, whether that is fund management, whether that's an investment thesis, whether it's an allocation plan, if you're looking to do fund of funds type things. And I want to make sure that every single one of those projects leverages AI for a number of common tasks and workflows, and how you are thinking about some of these amazing new technologies coming into your experience. And it provides a program-long interaction with very close peers and mentors that we're bringing from this ecosystem to help you think about the tough parts and the difficult questions associated with investing in this asset class. All right, there's my contact information. I want to get to some of the questions that have come up, and address some of these here. So Darren asks, how common is for program participants to balance their daytime job with class time, and will any of the homework will there be any homework or self-directed work? So Darren, the program is full-time for those 2 weeks. All of the sessions are held during the day on Stanford campus in person. Do we provide time and breaks for you to answer emails and do those things? Yes, but in order to get a certificate for this program, you must be in the classroom and participating during that time. In the evenings and things, of course, that is your time to catch up on stuff. But this is a full-time program during those 2 weeks, and to get the most out of it, we ask that as much as you can unplug from that daytime job. I understand how hard that is, and we try to make as many accommodations as we can. But in order to complete the program, you do have to be in the classroom for every session. and sort of participating. I hope that answers your question, Darren. Talking also, Parmi asks about talking about investing in other stages of companies, such as growth stages. And yes, we will have to bleed into this without a doubt, because if we're going to talk about follow-on investment, if we're going to talk about the later stages, which, as an early stage investor, you of course participate either monetarily or simply as a board advisor. You're going to participate in those rounds. And so we have to have content that touches on growth stage investing, what the terms like, things like that. And so it will naturally be part of the discussion that we engage in. And Parmi, for depending on sort of what the makeup of the cohort looks like, creating a capstone group that is more focused on growth, I think is a wonderful opportunity to be able to go a little further down those lines. Eve, thanks for the comments there. The community and ecosystem talk, yeah, so much of this is built on trust in a local ecosystem, and we want to help you develop your ecosystem using the best lessons that you can from this ecosystem, but also recognizing that every ecosystem is different. And the thing you'll find on the simulation for an investment committee meeting, because we do an investment committee meeting with the entire group, it is the worst investment committee ever because it's got like dozens and dozens of people. You would never structure an investment committee with that many people and that many viewpoints, but that's what also makes it super interesting. Ashe asks, will fund structure be focused on the US? Not specifically only focused on the US. Yeah, we're going to use a lot of lessons for how funds are structured in the US. And from a legal standpoint, we'll be talking primarily about fund structures in the US. But no, we hit a variety of different fund structures, as much as they're different from different geographies. All right, Eve, you're asking a question about the demographic of the students. Demographic of the students, and Chris might be able to speak a little bit more to what some of that's been in the past, but has had a lot of international components to it, right? We have people coming from all different types of backgrounds. As I said, we kind of you saw the list of different backgrounds of folks that have found this program to be the best opportunity for them. And where they can come together. So after I'm done with your question, Eve, we'll have Chris answer on some demographic stuff. What kind of networking alumni experiences have you seen? So one of the things that happens with every single one of these cohorts is we do create a WhatsApp group, and that WhatsApp group is incredibly active during the 2 weeks you're here. That WhatsApp group stays incredibly active long afterwards. I am on so many WhatsApp groups of VC Unlocked participants from past years that are still active on a weekly, if not daily basis, of meeting up somewhere around the world because there is a demo day happening or someone's at a conference or whatever it might be. And that stays highly active. Furthermore, there is a lot of interaction between the cohorts where people will say, hey, I'm going to be there any venture capital unlock Silicon Valley sort of alum, meet up with me. I want to hear what's happening in your ecosystem. And I want to know what are deals looking like? What's the hot stuff right now? And so what I would say is the experiences around networking and the alumni are truly unique, because the length of the program and the depth into which we go around personal advancement and the capstone experience forge a common sort of viewpoint of this experience and this asset class, and is truly special. Chris, I'm going to ask you to talk about the demographic of the students and also a little bit more about the scholarships.
Of course. Thanks, Mike. And great question, Eve, because not only is this program hosted by Stanford University to provide that academic perspective rooted in Silicon Valley, but it's also hosted by 500 Global, investing in emerging ecosystems worldwide for over 15 years now. And alongside this, we like to emphasize it, which is you're also learning from your peers. The peer-to-peer learning experience in these programs is incredibly strong. You will, of course, have that global perspective. As Mike referenced, we usually have about 20 countries represented in each of our cohorts. Alongside this kind of geographic diversity, we also have a lot of fund models and vehicles represented amongst program participants. This isn't a program that's only for emerging fund managers where everyone's trying to fundraise Fund One. We really try to get the entire startup ecosystem in the room in terms of the investor side. So our cohorts all contain VC investment team members, fund managers, CVCs, angel syndicate leads, family offices, fund of funds, sovereign wealth funds. And so you can imagine the amount of collaboration available in that room. Last year specifically, we had in the cohort the first sovereign wealth fund of Ethiopia in the room. We had the European Investment Fund in the room. We had many VC fund managers raising Fund Two. And again, the opportunities for collaboration post-program are immense, whether you're enjoying our in-person alumni reunions, as Mike mentioned, or establishing that collaboration virtually post-program. In terms of the scholarship committee, this committee is created with roles that are overseen by 500 Global investment partners, Stanford professors, as well as an assortment of past scholarship recipients. We have a very wholesome experience, very serious committee that gets together to review the scholarship shortlist. I'll go ahead and pause there, turn it back over to you, Mike. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Chris. There was a question I saw that that Hannah already responded to. Class hours indeed are 9 to 5-ish daily. I'll also be transparent that you're going to be working in the evenings as well, right? We want to see development on your capstone projects. We want to see you implementing things in whatever it is, if it's a presentation, if it's a fund plan, whatever else it is. And so, yeah, expect to be working in the evenings on the things that your peers are challenging you about, which I think is a special piece to this. Sophia Christina said, is this specific for California residents? Are there specificities to be considered for people out of town and state? So we have folks coming from all over the world to participate in this program, but it is residential. And what I mean by that is it's only in person and here on the Stanford campus over that time frame. And so I wouldn't say it's specific to California residents in any way, but yes, you have to be here in person during those 2 weeks. During the weekend, you can go wherever you want in the middle. Yeah, go. I see you unmuted yourself, Sophia Christina.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I'm learning about this. Are we going to be hosted on the campus, or do we need to look for lodging on our own?
Oh, got it. Okay. So no, we do not provide housing on campus simply because our campus has more people on it during the summer than it does during the regular school year, because we host lots of coding camps and tech camps and kid camps and all kinds of other stuff. And that's what we use our dorms for. So most folks who come to this program end up, and we'll connect you with other people that are going through this. They end up getting an Airbnb not too far away from campus, and then coming onto campus. That's very common. Hannah, have you seen some other things that people do?
Yeah, we actually do have some opportunities to stay on campus if you'd like. There is the Stanford Guest House, and then there are some graduate residences that are open during the summer that you're welcome to reserve, and we would help you do that. I will also add that we put together a very robust guidance, travel and transportation guidance document that we'd share with you with hotel recommendations, ways to get to campus, ways to navigate around the sites around campus, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say, don't worry if you are new to California. We're here to help you.
Thank you.
Eve also said, want to learn about to differentiate the different stages and their different due diligence. Absolutely. We're going to go deep into multi-stage investing, what the differences are between stages, as much as we can differentiate between them. There's a lot of, it's a continuum much more than a specific set of stages. And yes, the due diligence that's required around each of those, we talk a great deal about due diligence, the extent that it can be run at certain stages. I'll tell you what, due diligence at early stage is pretty tough. What are you going to ask about? You got an idea, you have maybe a business partner, that's about it. But of course, as it gets further along, you want to really up that due diligence game. And so without a doubt, that is part of the overall program. And yes, Eve, we're super yeah, Eve, early DD is definitely art. When we introduce, so one of the things that you'll find is that we introduce a lot of frameworks. I can't tell you what the right investments are going to be. I can't even tell you what AI is going to look like 6 months in the future. And honestly, if anybody tells you they can, they're wrong. But what I can provide you and what we always try to focus on are providing you frameworks to help structure your thinking so that when you see that new thing, you know how to address it. You know how to think about it in the context of everything else that's gone on to that point. And so Eve, to your point about sort of like early DD and what does that look like? One of the frameworks that we'll teach you is our 6Ts framework for assessing an early stage investment. And it's a simple framework to help you remember all the things that you're supposed to think about as an early stage investor. And it does two things. Number one, it helps to prevent bias. When you're looking at a founder, it's easy to have bias come in and think, oh, wow, this person went to the right school, this person looks the right way, this person's saying the right things. And those frameworks help you prevent bias because as an investor, you need to prevent bias in your decision making because often the best investments are the people who don't fit the mold. Along with that, you're going to be hearing a lot of pitches. When you go to demo days, you hear dozens of pitches. And look, we all get fatigued. We all get tired. And sometimes pitch number 28 out of 30 is the one. And you want to make sure that you're ready and structured for every single one of those. But to your point, Eve, we'll teach that, look, early DD, it's a lot about whether or not you trust this founder to actually do what they say they're going to do. Because there's not a lot to due diligence on other than figuring out if the person sitting in front of you has really got what it takes. And how do you assess that? Well, we'll go through some of those approaches to try to get to that. What level of seniority do we expect from participants? We have had folks with absolutely no investment experience who have never written a check, up to people who have written a lot of checks and are coming to more formalize their educational experience. Like I said, for some people who have written no checks, yep, you're going to learn a lot, and it is going to be like drinking from a fire hose. The folks that have written a lot of checks have often said, I thought I was doing this the right way, and a lot of what you said formalized what I was thinking. I actually have theory that validated what I was doing. And in some cases, I don't think I was doing it quite the right way. And so even those with more experience have found this to be an incredibly valuable program from the mechanic side of things, but also the career advancement, the networking, and the capstone experience. Eve, yeah, quite a bit of early stage DD. Oh yeah, you've met a lot of people and tried to figure out if you can trust them, and to know more about the later stages too. And yes, we will have the opportunity because of the length of the program to go deep into those types of topics and discuss them and to allow you to build that that sixth sense of what DD should look like at early stage, and then how do you supplement that with the more formal due diligence processes later on. Let's see here. I'll try to ask for to outline the scholarship application process. Chris, do you want to talk a little about the application process?
Yeah, no problem. I can add some more details to this, Ashay. So the application process for a scholarship applicant or a regular non-scholarship applicant is similar. It follows the same guidelines. So qualified candidates, well, everyone is allowed to request a nomination from a colleague on their behalf. To detail what a colleague could be, it could be a mentor, could be an investment partner, could be a colleague at your work, It could be a founder. After this nomination is submitted, our admissions team will review, and qualifying candidates will have the opportunity to submit an application. Within this application is the opportunity to answer a selected set of scholarship questions. It does take additional effort. We will be asking for a recent publication. We'll ask for a 1-minute video, along with another selection of questions about your candidacy. For qualifying candidates after the application, they will be invited to an interview, very brief, 15 minutes long, usually. And after that, if a scholarship applicant is shortlisted for scholarship, then that means they will be reviewed by our scholarship committee. Remember, the scholarship application deadline is March 20th. It is coming up just right around the corner. So for anyone who's considering applying to the program early to reserve their seat or to be considered for a scholarship, one of 4, you will need to be nominated and submit your application before March 20th. I hope that helps.
All right. Looking for more questions to come in on the chat. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself. I'm all ears. I also know that you all are very busy, and I don't see a need to extend this if all the questions have been answered. Oh, Sophia Christina, go ahead.
Yeah, when you say recent publication, what do you mean by that specifically?
Yeah, a recent publication is really showcasing whether your interest, your experience, in the scholarship context, it's your commitment to a developing startup ecosystem, or audio recording. It might include an article where you're published in, a white paper. Some people,
Recent.
sorry,
How recent does this need to be?
preferably in the past 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions. Great questions. Chris, for people who took the VC on Program Tokyo program, is there an overlap?
Hey, Sabrina, good to see you here. There'll be a light overlap, Sabrina, in terms of some of the technical skills. We lightly touched, I would say, on term sheets and cap tables in the specific VC Unlock Tokyo program that you mentioned. However, what I would say wasn't available in that 4-day program is, one, the 2 weeks building career-defining relationships with a cohort of 35 to 45 global investors. The other part would be the Stanford University expertise on the Silicon Valley ecosystem. And then, of course, it's our speaker team. While we did have an excellent and incredible time at VC Unlock Tokyo over the last couple of years, we even hit our 50th investor education program milestone this past year. This program specifically hosts over 30 VC instructors throughout our 2 weeks program. So it's very robust on every level. And again, I think there's a lot more to experience in terms of that those peer-to-peer exercises.
Yeah, just to build on that, Sabrina. So a lot of the other programs focus, necessarily on deals and execution, because with a short program, that's where you should focus, because that is core to what you need to learn how to do. In this program, we're going to go, as you'll find, a lot deeper into these other areas about how do you think about running your management firm, in addition to doing some deals and executing on them, and thinking about your career progression, your advancement, your personal skill building, your identity as an investor in this asset class, and then seeing that play out and express itself in an in-depth capstone and culmination experience that is unique to you, and something that you will leave with that will, like I said, I believe will be both personally and professionally transformational, and builds upon both a peer group and a mentor group that will be just very, very unique. Great question. Great question.
Thanks, Mike and Chris. I look forward to learning more about the course. That was the main question for me attending today's session.
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking it. It's a great question. Well, while we're waiting for just a couple more questions to come in, if there are any, Hannah, Chris, are there specific deadlines in addition to the scholarship deadline that people need to think about? What are their next steps as they're preparing for this? And if no questions come in after that, then we'll kind of bring this thing to a close.
Definitely. So just to reiterate, scholarship application and early admissions deadline for those who want to reserve their seat early is March 20th. We're talking about just over a couple of weeks away. In order to confirm, to have the opportunity to submit an application for early admissions or for the scholarship, you will need to be nominated first. I have shared that nomination link in the chat. I'll share it once more. And I'll also share my email in case anyone has additional questions that come up. In the meantime, happy to discuss offline via email as well.
Sure. And when will scholarship results be announced?
Scholarship results will be announced later in the year, likely in late April. So about a few weeks after, 3 to 4 weeks after that deadline.
All right. And as Hannah had said, you're also welcome to reach out to her if you have questions that are curriculum related or want to know more about the program. So I want to thank everyone for their time today. I know we're all busy, and thanks for spending some time with us. You know, I don't know about you all, but you know, as I think about the trajectory of my life, there have been certain events, certain things that if I look back and I say, wow, if I had not done that, my life would be very different today. And there are specific things that we can say. I think for all of us, yeah, that was a big change in my life, and I want this program to be that for you. To say, wow, I went to that program, and since that program, everything's been different. And that's why you come to VC Unlocked Silicon Valley. It's a differentiator on the course of your life, and I'm excited to have all of you participate this upcoming summer. Thanks for your time, and I hope to see you here on campus in a few months. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.